What's going on, everybody? The Mental Man Monday live stream. We are here. Now, I'm going to preface this real quick. Today is Monday. Something came up, that's why I'm late. But next week, I'll be in St. Louis. So, next live stream will be on Tuesday, the 23rd. And then the following Tuesday, the 30th, because I'll be just come back to Houston because I'll still be in St. Louis that Monday. But I leave. I lied. It probably no, because the 29th, I'll be back in Houston that afternoon, early in the morning. So, matter of fact, no, scratch that. Just next week, it'll be on Tuesday. I'm trying to go find a guest. I'm gonna try to get back some guests, and that's what I'll do. But yeah, we are back. Just me today, so I won't be before you too long. But I do want to speak on. So first, let's just jump right into it with the recap of this week's episode. After unexpected week off, we were back for episode 2. Part 2, Social Media and You, Reloaded, Part 2, featuring Peyton Hogan, therapist, host of Clean Your Room podcast. First of all, now I actually recorded the episode. The date I recorded the episode was November 3rd. I recorded it right before I did a live stream on November 3rd. And it was a great time. We talked, you seen the episode, we just talked about just therapy in general. You know, he talked about something most people don't talk about. You heard him, the clip that really went up when he was just like, a lot of people actually have suicidal thoughts. They may not say it, but they do. And this was a whole therapist, a black man saying this. You know, he got his own service in Nebraska. You know, that's wonderful. And, you know, he's doing a lot of good things. You know, he made the joke like it's black people that do live in Nebraska. And he has his own team. He talked about entrepreneurship. If you haven't checked it out, what I liked about that episode is it was a big, although he's a therapist, it was a big contrast between social media and mental health with Will. And then, you know, and they're both black male therapists, one based out the Midwest and one based in Houston. But we were able to see just parallels between some of the things, but then at the same time, they were totally different. And I think that's good because it shows you that when people think therapy is for them, there's a therapist that's perfect for you. You know, it is. And, you know, you may have therapists that are like, you know, live for Christ, or some that are trying, some that they own, you know, there are so many that align with you and what you're trying to do. So, you know, the goal is to, and especially, you know, this season, we won't see any more licensed professionals, but you know, we've seen a lot this season and over past seasons, and then moving forward, and of course, in the season 10, you know, we're definitely gonna have even more licensed therapists that are just to show this the contrast. But like I said, we've had so many licensed professionals on the podcast in general, so and that's good too, just to show you the different, you know, that they don't all come one way. And they all have the goal of helping you to get to the root of some things and unpacking some things. Now, some people say, well, I talked to God. We kind of talked about that in the episode. And even as a therapist, he actually challenged what I believe, because I used to say, people like, well, I talk to my friends, and I said, well, they're not a licensed professional. And although he agreed, he was just saying it's still good that you're talking to somebody. So I had to be like, well, you know what? Yeah, at least you're talking to somebody, you know. It's better you to keeping it to yourself. So many people are unaliving themselves because they are keeping things to themselves. And it's like they just keep letting it build up, and then they just crack. And we've seen that so much, and especially with black men. So shout out to Peyton Hogan. Check out his podcast. He's doing numbers on YouTube. And he said he was going to start doing live streams. He did one. He haven't done one since. I'm calling him out. I'm going to send this to him like, hey, he said you're going to do your live stream, so you got to get to it. All right, y'all. So let's get into this week's the 2 topics for today. So we'll get to the first topic for today. So as you see in the title, 21 Savage claims he was groomed. Now, this topic was interesting because of I think that that was for this generation. But we're gonna watch the clip from a podcast. What's the name of that podcast? He was on Perspectives with Bank, the same one who Young Thug went viral on, Whoop-de-doo, that podcast. So we about to watch this clip, and then we're gonna cover some things. All right, so let's do it. Share my screen. Let's get going.
What's the word? Atlanta really a pedophile. Cause Atlanta really groomed us, bro, since we was kids. No, just listen to what I'm saying. maybe pedophile the worst word.
What's up, TJ?
Maybe pedophile the wrong word. Atlanta is a grooming city.
Okay.
Atlanta groomed us since we was 10, 11, 12 on club life, bro. When I was 11 on my mama, I was taking out trash for $2 in apartments. Just to goddamn get some chucks and some dickies to go to the Cater Skate.
Yeah.
Getting wristband, goddamn. They used to have pictures with no liquor. You just get a picture of Sprite. So your ass getting groomed for the club.
Yeah.
From you goddamn in middle school.
Yeah.
So now when you got down 30, man, I've been going to the club since I was 11, 12 years old, bro. The club.
Bro, super.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Atlanta groomed, bro.
So I'm saying, like,
Atlanta is really goddamn.
All right, so let's get into the first part of this, which is, what does this have to do with mental health? So now he talks about Atlanta groomed him for the club, and I didn't grow up in Atlanta. Y'all know I grew up in St. Louis. But here's the thing: the study of how we act, think, and feel. This generation, when we was in high school, middle school, for some of us, them little teen parties used to be going to where you did get wristbands. You know, they may have had like little punches and stuff, but like they did have kind of like club feelings. Like even like a lot of the high school parties when I went to college, they looked like the college parties. Then when we got older, it's just like the same format, just older people. So I do think that's why a lot of people are burnt out on the club, because it's like you've been doing the club stuff since you was 15, 14, you know what I mean? So now everybody tired of going into the sections, being in the clubs, because it's like it's the same thing. Because we've been doing the same stuff. And it's like it just get old after a while. You know, WWID, what would I do in this situation? Now, I've spoken on this before. You know, sometimes people be like, when they say they're outside, people always assume that's the club. But being outside is not always the club. You might be outside at the park, literally outside. You might be at brunch. I mean, a lot of these cities, though, brunches do look like the club because it's like the hookah and the peppermint bark mimosa with your with your lemon pepper rotisserie chicken and your licorice mac and cheese, and it just never ends, you know. Your oxtails that were stewed in, it's just too much. It's just too much. And so even, you know, you could be at the bookstore. I mean, it's so many things that can be outside. If I want to know what is outside to you, because some people gonna say the club, right? But what is outside to you? Like, what would you be like? This is outside to me. I'm outside. You know, some of y'all might be gardening. I don't know, but that's just something to think about. You know, but in this situation, with what he was saying in line, and what would I do in this situation? I don't see nothing wrong with what he said. You know, he just said, you know, he tired of this, and you get bored of stuff fast. And if we extract that, that's another thing too. When you've been doing something for so long, you're gonna get tired of it, especially when you do it early. You know, some people, I even heard somebody say recently, they brought up something with sex, and this person is low-key a sexual deviant. And they were just like, I done had a whole bunch of sex. Like, I'm tired of sex. Like, sex just don't do it for me no more. And when you start doing stuff a little too early, you get to a point where you're tired of it. And I think that that's just human nature. When we get to the point where we do something, we just tired of the same old thing. You might get tired of, and that can even be just in other parallels with other things. Like, you might get tired of just going through the motions in life. You feel like you're supposed to be doing more than what you're doing. And then it's just like, one day you just hit you like, and that adds to like depression and things, right? Because it's just like the same old thing. And then even people say, you know, a regular person like me might say, if I had 100 mil, I'd be good. But the rich people get tired of that too. Now, us people that's not rich, we would love that, and our lives would be a lot better for a moment. But then eventually we probably would be like them too. Let's get into another WWJD. What would Jesus do? So he wouldn't go to the club, right? But in this situation, with the whole commentary about going through the motions and being tired of the same thing. You have to wonder and you have to sit and just really get to the root of why are we being trained to do certain things. The world, I realize, starts with stuff early. Even with the whole this situation, our generation, I feel like we was going to the club early, right? And and then like even like with sex, right? Even with it's so many areas where I feel like I don't want to feel like I'm rambling, but where we were trying to do stuff a lot earlier than we should have. And so now we just get burnt out on everything. And some of us lived early. With me, I just feel like it was just going out because I tell you all the time, I was outside in high school. It really started around my sophomore year of high school. I was outside. Like I said, I used to love them little high school parties. A lot of people I know, they was like, I ain't going to them little parties. I said, no, I was at them. I was at all of them. I had a time. But I remember right before college, I was tired of them. And I remember it was like I was tired of them parties. It was around like my senior year. I used to go to all of them. Then after a while, I would just go to ones every so often because I was over it. Kind of happened in college too. And that's happening in my real life now with like the club stuff. Like I just got to a point, which I'm thankful because it seemed like it was never going to end. But a lot of it too was with me working at a school and just needed a relief every day. So WSMD, what should men do? I think that we should prioritize. I'm never going to say put fun on the back burner because everything I do has some type of fun, even my work, right? But the club fun, I think that we have to find safer ways to do things. You might be still in the club and might be clubbed out, but it might not be yet. But for me, I definitely something I would, for me, pray for like to be out of that. Like I'm tired of doing that, right? Help me to stop this. I don't want to keep going to this. Let me really get to the point where I just can't do it. And I think that's what we should do just because how is it benefiting you? You know what I mean? And some things are okay in moderation, but then some things we shouldn't be doing at all. So that's your own conviction and you need to definitely, get with that. All right, y'all. Final conversation for today. John Cena, he's retired. Can you believe it? Let me share my screen and let's get to looking at the legend, the myth, the man, the legend, the one, the only. You can't see me, John Cena. Let's look at it.
John's in it. Sorry, Gunther, not tonight. One last chance. And now just pummeling with blows to the jaw and again into the sleeper hold. Just those primitive instincts of Gunther kicking in as bloodthirsty as you like. Gunther is feasting on the carcass.
All right, so let's get into what does this have to do with mental health? It's a parallel between what we just talked about today. So first of all, I haven't watched wrestling like that consistently in decades now, but I remember John Cena back when I used to be in the wrestling heavy. What I will say about this situation is he finally just ended it, right? He been in buku movies and all these other things, but him finally to have his final goodbye. And sometimes you celebrate your final, right? Your final, this is it. I'm tired of this. Similar to like the last conversation about with the club stuff, even with this John Cena just said, I'm making a grand exit. Sometimes you just leave things and sometimes you make a final goodbye, right? What does this have to do with mental health study of how we act, think, and feel? If you're gonna go out with a bang. He went out with a bang. Now, he went out with an L. I believe that was fixed, but you know, sometimes you have to go out with a bang and things that you when it's time to go. Whether it's time to go from that career or you making a pivot in your entrepreneurship or you are leaving a leaving a relationship. You know, people do divorce parties these days, but you know, I would never intentionally celebrate the breaking up of a marriage, but in the same breath, some of us was married people we shouldn't have been with in the first place. So there's that. WWID, what would I do in this situation? I would do a grand exit on my way out. I would, but I'm extra like that. See, I would do if I was retiring from wrestling or podcast, whatever I'm retiring from. Oh, I'm going to do the most. I'm going to do the most. I'm going to tell you that now. So, whenever I quit something or whenever the time is up, like if ever I move, like say, for instance, I'm about to move out of Houston, boom, I'm doing a big thing. Whenever I move out of this apartment that I've been in since 2017, boom, doing a big thing. Now, my car was stolen. I'm going to do a vlog about it at some point when everything is fully restored, speaking over myself, right? But I knew it was going to be sad when it ended, but I didn't think it was going to end like that. And sometimes endings come suddenly. Let's talk about that. WWJD while doing this situation. First of all, Jesus left this earth with a bang. You know, taking on the sins of the world. But let's go pivot back into the conversation about what happens when endings come suddenly. John Cena's ending was playing. Sometimes when you end like doing certain things, you may have a big final shebang. You know, I ain't gonna say her name, this girl I know, she's saved, live for Christ now. But I know she said before she finally said she was gonna commit herself to Christ with especially with purity sexually, she said she called one of her old links for the last time. I ain't saying it's right, but hey, she said she did it. She said, I'm gonna call one of these links this last time. Sometimes you do it. Sometimes something that happened that was so traumatic, you just never went back. You know, with my car situation, it just ended. It just got stolen, got back, and I was just sitting there looking crazy. But I say all that to say that Chris Brown voice is never a right time to say goodbye. But you know, we got to go our separate ways. And WSMD, what should men do? Know when it's your time to leave. Know when your time to bow out. You'd rather leave on your own terms than be forced out. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether, you know, it's a career, whatever it is. Get to the point where, because in my case, if I don't leave something, he forces me out. And I guess that goes back to my car situation, right? Because I'm thinking, well, I ain't got the money getting a new car and all this stuff, and I'm going to just hold out till maybe I get a new job or something. He took it before then. Now I'm Fred Flintstone and borrowing, rubbling all over the place. For now. But mark my words, I don't know how it won't be long. It won't be long now. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. This week's episode, Social Media and You Part 3. Social Media and You Reloaded, Part 3. And Social Media and Family. How does that work? Go check that out. We got another entrepreneur who's in the finance space who talked about creating wealth with his children. Now, some of us don't have children, but for the ones who do, you can relate. But the ones that don't, when you have kids. But then we also pivot to talking about just doing business with family and just the parallels of that. And of course, a little financial gems here and there. We didn't really hit on that all the way because we've done a few episodes on that, and then it, you know, but it definitely was touched on. So give you just some things we weren't taught, especially as Black people. We weren't taught about credit and things. And so now a lot of us are playing catch up, but it's life. It is what it is. There's always redemption. There's always restoration. So thank y'all for tuning in. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And always remember, I love us for real.